Hey guys, this is Undercover Dudes all the way from Down Under, and today we're going to be talking about Overwatch vs Paladins vs LawBreakers. But before we go and start, let me ask you one question. Why? I swear 2017 is the year of the gaming comparison. People saying X is better than Y, Z is a copy of X, and so on. For example, the debate has raged for years between Paladins being an Overwatch clone and Overwatch being a Paladins clone, and now we have LawBreakers on the scene. The first thing people have to go and do is automatically compare it to Overwatch. Now, am I helping this issue by titling my video in such a way? Well, let me put it this way. You clicked on this video for a reason. You wanted to know the answer to the question that I posed in the title, and that's fair enough. But my aim today is to go and show that in the end of it, these comparisons really don't matter. That these comparisons are simply human nature, and that games, shock horror, can really be fun even if some of the elements, shock horror, are similar to other video games. Humans are naturally drawn to compare. The grass is greener on the other side. I wish I was like him. I wish I was like her. I'm here but I could be there. Humans in general compare, and to be fair, it's the basis of our daily lives. The reason why we compare video games, or anything for that matter, is that we're trying to go and draw a parallel between something that we're familiar with and something that we're not, in order to go and get a better understanding before we go and commit, before we purchase, before we try. Let's say you're talking to a friend, and that friend has played Overwatch a ton, but has never played Paladins. Now you have two choices at this point. If you want to go and explain what Paladins is, you could go and say, okay, Paladins is a free-to-play Overwatch clone. Or you could go and explain what Paladins actually is. Now, majority of people would go with the first option. If you went with the second option, in order to go and actually get a decent amount of information across, you would have to say something along these lines. Paladins is a free-to-play, team-based first-person shooter, with an emphasis on MOBA elements like deck building and loadout customization. Paladins has a MOBA-like champion select phase, where you're locked into playing that champion for the rest of the match, and at the start of the match you have to decide a legendary card and a deck that can completely change the identity of that champion. Throughout a match of Paladins, the player can also buy loadout cards that give certain properties, for example damage mitigation or increased damage to shields. This means the player can change the focus of the champion mid-game, compared to Overwatch where, for example, all traces have the exact same damage, health, cooldowns, and so on. Furthermore, Overwatch allows players to swap what hero they're playing on the fly, allowing for dynamic strategies for each section of a multi-tiered map. Paladins also has one large sprawling map with a dedicated spawn point for each team, which means in order to go and get to the center of the action, you have to go and take a horse, which means you go really fast. Now compare that to the dynamic forward spawns of Overwatch, and overall the way the games play are very different in that sense. Gameplay wise, the two games are fundamentally different due to the points previously explained, but also due to a regenerating health mechanic in Paladins when the champion's out of combat for a short period of time. Despite the face level similarities of the characters, which is often the basis for these Paladins as a copy of Overwatch arguments, their key abilities are actually quite different, and thus the actual playstyle of these characters vary wildly, especially with Paladins having the aforementioned cards. For example, Victor in Paladins looks like Soldier 76 in Overwatch, because both of them have an assault rifle and they both have a sprint ability. However, Victor's grenade and airstrike automatically encourage a different playstyle. The fact it can also go and aim down sights means that headshots are heavily emphasized. On top of that, taking the hit fire damage bonus legendary promotes a more close quarters flanking style, while his aim down sights damage bonus legendary promotes more of a backline damage dealing role. Now compare this to Soldier 76, who has a large amount of self-sustain, a potentially one-shotting Helix rocket, and an aimbot like Alderman means that Soldier 76 can potentially wipe the enemy team in mere seconds, and thus good positioning and map awareness are needed. I could go on and on and on, but I think you get my point. Who can be fucked saying all of that to a friend when a quick, "Oi, Paladins is a free-to-play Overwatch clone," will get the idea across quickly, despite it being crude and rather inaccurate. People paint with broad strokes, and game comparisons are no different. Attempting to draw superficial links between games is sort of a trend nowadays, and it's kind of disappointing because it is a major cop-out. No one can be really fucked explaining what is good or bad about a game. Video game critics have been using this crutch for years, and it sucks because this shitty type of reviewing is supported in the industry. I'm not going to go and call out the companies, but bless the YouTubers like Video Game Donkey and Total Biscuit that produce high quality content, and hopefully we can all learn from the example they are setting. Back on track. To be fair, I can see where the Paladins vs Overwatch comparisons come from. Similar art style, the characters at face value seem to be the same, they share a mode or two, loot boxes, etc, etc. But really, who thought that LawBreakers is in any way similar to Overwatch? A lot of popular YouTubers have been making videos on LawBreakers, be it a sponsored video or not a sponsored video, and in the comment section, a large portion of people have been calling it an Overwatch clone, an Overwatch ripoff, and I really can't see their point. The one trait they share is that they are both class-based first-person shooters. That's it. LawBreakers is more along the lines of a 2017 reimagining of Unreal Tournament. LawBreakers is a game that has the competitive DNA of the arena shooters of old, but has reinvented itself for a generation of gamers that want choice of character, not just the weapon they are holding. LawBreakers' fast-paced, chaotic nature is insane, on top of the massive emphasis on zero-G zones, which allow players to float in mid-air. These zero-G zones define LawBreakers and give the game a new sense of verticality and speed that all classes and all players can use, and that overall brings something new and fresh to the scene. Aligning itself with a hardcore crowd, LawBreakers is unforgiving with insanely quick time to kills and no reviving mechanics. The twitch-based nature rewards perfect aim, and in general the game has little to no hard counters, hard stunts or useless classes. In the end of it, if you lose a gunfight, it's because the enemy got the one-up over you. In Overwatch, if you die, it could potentially be because you were in a fight where the game destined you to lose. For example, Mei versus basically anybody close range. She freezes you, you're just looking at her, and boom, she puts 2 icicles in your head and you are dead. But with that said, it's a game that has this rock, paper, scissors nature, and LawBreakers has gone completely away from that. Now, this is not a cop-out or an excuse for dying. In Overwatch, of course, positioning, knowing the map, knowing the classes is very, very important, and that metagame goes and brings a new level of really great depth that a lot of people absolutely love. But in general, LawBreakers plays like a traditional competitive first-person shooter, where everybody is on familiar footing, but in this, the class-based nature has gone and really embedded itself within the DNA, and that brings a very big twist. Give a casual Overwatch player LawBreakers and most likely they would uninstall. Give a hardcore LawBreakers player Overwatch and most likely they would uninstall. The games are going for completely different demographics, but there is still overlap. Overwatch, however, has an extremely low skill floor. Anybody can realistically pick it up. It is a very easy to pick up game. But it also has an extremely high skill ceiling, seen in the highest levels of competitive play. LawBreakers has a moderate to high skill floor, but an extremely high skill ceiling, and therefore, who knows how this game will go and turn out? Will there be a casual base? Will there be a competitive scene? Will there be an esports scene? Everything is really up in the air, because no game has really gone down this route besides Quake and Unreal Tournament many years ago. LawBreakers is also going for the mature crowd if you haven't gone and noticed. The characters are not the nicest people around, they swear and abuse their opponents. Blood splurts from their enemies' bodies after a quick blade slice, and this all ties in quite nicely to the gritty, post-apocalyptic design which plays perfectly into the hands of the Unreal Engine. Just because Gunslinger has a dash and 2 pistols does not mean he is Tracer. He is meant for medium and long range damage, not close range damage, therefore he is not Tracer. Just because the game has Enforcer does not mean they are copying Soldier 76. The way the characters play out are very different. And I'm sure you guys can hear that I'm getting a little bit frustrated. I wrote this script to try to go and counteract my natural biases to LawBreakers, but through recording, they just naturally come out because I get frustrated when people go and judge a game before even playing it. But with that said, I wanted to go and plug a video because the whole commentary aspect of this video is very one-sided. I talk to you guys and then after the fact, you guys go and respond in the comment section. And therefore, if I have anything wrong in the video, that means I have to go and post a comment or I have to go and edit the description or something along those lines. It's a very delayed process of feedback. But with that said, I wanted to quickly plug a video by SkillUp, which is basically an argument between him and his brother on the topic of Lawbreakers and Overwatch. SkillUp is along the same opinions of what I have. He believes that Lawbreakers is a very unique game and overall it's going in a very unique direction. But his brother is a heavy Overwatch player, and he goes and sees that Lawbreakers doesn't really bring anything to the table. They're both on screen, they talk for 15 to 20 minutes, and overall, it gives that balanced opinion because you've got one side heavily invested in another, you've got another side heavily invested in another, and then in the end of it, the beautiful thing is they come to some sort of a mutual agreement, and overall, that video is really good if you want to go and see both sides. Getting again back on track, I think people are just pulling at really anything they can in order to go and get a sense of familiarity. When people go and say, okay, Lawbreakers is a copy of Overwatch, it's more along the lines of, okay, I don't know what this game is, but I see classes, I see, heroes and whatnot. Oh, okay, it's got to be Overwatch in order for me to, get a bit of a basis that, okay, maybe I understand the game. But for some reason, these assumptions, which are okay to go and make, sometimes, they have to be at the expense of another game. They have to be bagging another game, and that makes absolutely no sense. I think I'm in the surprisingly unique situation where I play a large variety of games within the first-person shooter genre, given that's what my YouTube channel focuses on, first-person shooter games. So with that said, I play quite a lot of them. I like Overwatch, Paladins, and LawBreakers. All three are great games. TF2 and Battleborn are great games too. But why does defending one have to result in bagging another? It just seems super counterintuitive. I remember back in the day when so many people were doing the whole Jak and Daxter versus Ratchet and Clank comparison. But these comparisons were done to go and show off just how damn good these games were, not just to go and say that one was better than another. Now that is completely debatable. I love both the games, and I think they both went and learnt off each other. And that overall is great when one game goes and learns from another, and they keep building on top and on top and on top, both the games become great. And overall, these are legendary series for the PS2. Now compare it to now, the hostility of this generation of gamers has risen higher and higher, and it's at a state where people are just closing themselves into one singular game simply because it's what they have put a lot of time into. In my opinion, I like it when multiple games are fighting over the same space because it makes each of the games better. Paladins is making a major splash right now, and for sure Blizzard has taken notice, and thus they need to improve their game in order to go and get more people to go and play Overwatch rather than Paladins. Some people would go and say, but Overwatch is massive, why would Blizzard care if a few people go and leave? But that right there is a lazy mentality, and a lazy mentality means less profits. Yes, they might have $30 or so from the game purchase, but Blizzard also wants them to go and buy their loot crates, not the crate Paladins has. Furthermore, Lawbreakers may bring over the competitive Overwatch players that are sick of the rock, paper, scissors based nature and want more of a game with an emphasis on skill. With how shaky the Overwatch competitive scene is, Blizzard might need to go and take notice of this game as well. In general, this makes the developers' lives harder, but us the players reap the benefits with playing better games. And in the end of it, choice is great. If you don't like one, you play the other, and then the other, and so on and so on and so on, until you go and find a game that you want to go and play, quite a lot of. And then when you get bored of that game, you can go back to the first one that you tried. And overall, playing different games is great. Going and closing yourself into one is a really bad thing. And I used to go and do that when I was quite young. And overall, I missed out on so many games that overall I thought I shouldn't play, simply because I was so invested in one game. If you get one thing from this video, it's not to go and judge anything by its cover. Generally, that quote is used for people, but it works perfectly fine here. Before flaming in the comments of a certain game's release, play that game for a decent amount of time and get a really good feel. Who knows, you might actually like it. Overwatch will have another 3 weeks soon, and it's not that expensive to buy. It's only like $30, so you should go and buy it because it's a good game. Paladins is a free-to-play game, so you should go and download it. And Lawbreakers will no doubt have another open beta, so you can go and try it. And it's going to be $30, so you should go and buy it anyways. Try them out, and then go and tell me in the comment section below what you think. No doubt, actual comparison videos will still keep getting made. They do get clicks, and clicks pay the bills. It's half the reason I titled this video how I did in the first place. But I do hope that these comparison videos do more to go and actually dispel the trend of comparing anything to everything rather than going with it. Or when they do go and do a comparison, for example, like the graphics, they do it on a basis where it actually makes sense in the context of both of these games, rather than just going and saying, okay, this is that, this is this, and that's it kind of thing. Make a point to why you're comparing, rather than just going comparing for the sake of comparing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's going to be dislike bombed to hell because kids these days have the attention spans of preschoolers and can't go and watch 5 minutes of a video, but regardless, it was a ton of fun making this type of video. Also, the nature of YouTube goes and calls for these catchy titles. I went and just hinted on it before. And I wouldn't actually call this video clickbait because in the end of it, I did answer the question that in the end of it, these comparisons don't need to be made. There's no point. And hopefully that the fact that this title meant you clicked on the video, hopefully you got an answer that maybe you weren't expecting, but hopefully it gave you insight, and hopefully that insight was worth it. But with that said, I had to go and do this title. I had to go and do this thumbnail because that's the nature of YouTube. If you don't have a good thumbnail, you don't have a good title, people won't click. And if people don't click, it doesn't matter how good your content is, it will never be found. But with that said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to go and give it a like rating. But other than that, it's Undercover Dudes all the way from down under, out.